What's going on, guys? I want to jump in today, and as you may have seen in previous videos, I just wrapped up over a month on injections. I wanted to experiment, and today I want to tell you about how I switched from the pump, the insulin pump, to MDI, or multiple daily injections. So, there's a couple things that I want to jump into first. One is, what did I use? What am I using? I'm currently on the Tandem insulin pump, okay? Tandem T-Slim X2, and it's great. I love it. And it's nothing against Tandem, I just wanted to see how it would go if I switched back to MDI. Now in MDI, when I used to be MDI, I was on pens, right? And before that I was on syringes and vials when I was first diagnosed. Technology's come a long way. And I used a new tool, at least it was new to me, called the InPen. It's a smart insulin pen. It keeps track of your doses, your insulin to carb ratios, all that stuff in your phone. There's an app for it. It's pretty cool. So that made the transition a lot easier. So if you can get your hands on that, I would recommend it. It makes the transition, the switch over to MDI much smoother. But if you can't, totally still doable, right? And there were days where I didn't use the calculations just to make sure I still got it, right? So I'll give you guys a quick look at the tech that I use. And the first thing really that I want to mention, if you are considering a switch from the pump to MDI, is to make sure you got your prescriptions filled, or at least available to fill, because if you don't have the right tools, it's not going to go very smoothly. Alright guys, so here is the InPen. I got a bunch of things in my hands now. This is what I used, right? It is a smart insulin pen. Essentially this is, it is the skeleton of an insulin pen. There's no insulin in here, which means I had to get this guy. Cartridges in order, make sure that the camera can focus on it, cartridges to make sure that I was able to, there we go, get insulin delivered. So the cartridge goes inside of the InPen. Very cool. Now, of course, in addition to that, you're gonna need you're gonna need pen needles. I can't speak today. Make sure you get these prescriptions filled. And then for your basal, gonna have, I use Lantus, there's Tresiba, right? There's other options, but make sure you have a basal insulin. So these are the main tools that I used. Pen needles, cartridges, InPen, Lantus. It's going to vary based on what you have available to you, but make sure you have these things available as prescriptions to fill, okay? You're going to need these because you're not going to have a pump anymore if you're switching, right? Now I want to go over a few reasons why you might be switching. Why would somebody switch from a pump to an insulin pen? Well, it could be that you misplaced your pump. Maybe you had a pump malfunction. Maybe you forgot your pump somewhere, or your pump supplies. Maybe you don't have a site change. Maybe you're going to a hospital, you're going into surgery. Maybe you want to go take a bath without a pump. Maybe you're going to a water park. Maybe you're going into a jacuzzi where your insulin might go bad if it gets too hot. There are a lot of reasons, but the reason that I chose was just to take a break. Maybe you want a pump break, right? Now I had a secondary reason, right, where I wanted to experiment. I'm kind of known as the guy who experiments on himself before he teaches his clients what to do. So I wanted to experiment with a few new theories of mine on how MDI works, how we can kind of hack MDI, if you will. So I wanted to prove out those new theories that I had, but I also wanted to see if I still could do it. If I still had the ability to maintain stable and in-range blood sugars while on MDI without any help from a pump, right? Because my insulin pump had basal IQs protecting me from the lows. And ultimately, through the experimental phase, I discovered that pens, MDI, offers more simplicity, right? And the insulin pump offers more customization. So let's dive into how to make the switch. Before you make the switch, like I said, make sure you have your prescriptions, make sure you have the pens, the syringes, the vials, whatever you're using, have those available. I would personally order them before you make the switch, so like the full stash, right? So you have a stash ready to go. Now, of course, you're also going to want to make sure you get all of your settings off of the pump. And it's something you should probably do every couple of months anyways, just to make sure you have them documented, written down somewhere, in case your pump does malfunction and shut off for whatever reason. That way you have your insulin to carb ratios, your basal rates, your total daily basal, you have your correction factor, right? All these different things, your pump knows. It's in the settings. Go grab that. In fact, pause the video, go grab that right now, write it down. That is crucial information. If there ever is an issue, now you're prepared. Now you're ready for any kind of switch you need to take. Even if it's switching to a new pump, that new pump is not going to have your settings programmed into it. You're going to have to put those in manually. So, pause the video, go write down all of your pump settings, make sure you have that somewhere safe. That is going to be crucial for any switch to MDI or switch to a new pump. Now, initially, you gotta let your doctor know, because they're gonna have to give you new prescriptions, right? I let my doctor know because I was also like, hey, I'm doing these experiments, and she was like, that's incredible, tell me how it goes, because she knows that I like to kind of be the renegade, right? I don't follow all the rules, and I try new things, and she's always curious about what I find and what discoveries I make. But during these tests, during this switch, you're probably not gonna have a perfect transition. I didn't even have a perfect transition. My first couple nights, I was going low every single night while I was figuring out my new basal rates. And I said new basal rates because your basal rates will likely not match perfectly to your basal rates on the pump. It's gonna be close, but it's not going to match up perfectly in most cases. They tell you, in most cases from the doctor's perspective, that your basal needs are actually going to be 20% greater on MDI than they were on the pump, which is interesting. Now what's also interesting is that because I shifted and I took control and I documented everything and I was experimenting, so I kept everything consistent, I noticed I actually needed 5% less basal insulin on MDI than I did on the pump. Very curious. Now I also have a theory. I lost a little bit of weight that same week. That's not a consistent factor, so I believe it's also tied into losing that weight. So just keep in mind, it might not be the same. The first 24 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours might be a little bit rough. I want you to get mentally prepared for that, because going into it, if you're like, it's gonna be great, and then it sucks, you're gonna be beating yourself up over it, when in reality, no one gets it perfect right off the bat, okay? So don't beat yourself up, mentally prepare yourself. It might be a little bit of a bumpy ride right off the bat. Also, in case it wasn't clear, your total basal that you give yourself for Lantus, Tresiba, whatever you're using, is going to be your total daily basal for a 24-hour period in your pump settings. So go to your pump settings, check out how much basal you're receiving, just basal though, not total daily insulin with basal and bolus, just 24 hours of basal insulin. Take that, and that's roughly going to be what your injection of basal insulin is going to look like for your Lantus, Tresiba, their shot of basal, right? Now, of course, chat with your doctor about that. Like I mentioned, they say it could be 20% above. Mine was 5% under. So chat with them. They'll have a good idea of what you should do with that. And as always, make sure you have this conversation with your doctor beforehand so that they know what you're getting into. Now, with it being a bumpy ride right off the bat, what's something important that you should probably be doing more than you were doing on the pump? Checking your blood sugars. Whether it's on a Dexcom, Freestyle Libre, finger sticks, Eversense, whatever you're using, check your blood sugars more often. If you're on a CGM, I'd recommend setting your alerts a little bit higher. Maybe bump it up 10 points as an early warning system, because likely you're gonna be dropping a little bit. You might be rising a little bit, right? Now, when you make the initial transition to your new basal, Lantus, Tresiba, whatever it is, what I was told and what I did is I gave myself a buffer that first night, because pump insulin is, fast-acting insulin. It stays in your system for a while. They told me, give it a 2-hour buffer. Cut your insulin. Let's say that you're giving your first shot of Lantus or Tresiba at 10 o'clock at night, which I was. They told me cut your basal on the pump at 8 p.m. That way, by the time 10 p.m. comes around, all that fast-acting insulin has already run its course, and the majority of it is out of your system, giving you a fresh start, and you're not overlapping. The overlap is where it can get dangerous if you have double basal insulin. So if you run your pump all the way until 10 and then give yourself a shot, now you got double. Ugh, that could get dangerous. It's better to run a little bit high, especially before bed, than to be going low in your sleep. Now, with that being said, test your blood sugar more often. Okay, document, see how it runs its course, see if you are going low or going high. Document, that's going to help you make the necessary changes or to respond to your doctors with the necessary information that you need to have a smooth rest of the week. Now, the big take-home message I want you to have here is that on a pump, you can disconnect, you can set temp basals with the newer pumps. They take care of some stuff for you, right? With Control-IQ, with Loop, all that kind of stuff. With MDI, once you've injected your basal, it's in, right? That's what you have for the next 24 hours, or in some cases you have it for 36 hours, right? If it overlaps. Be cautious. Make slow changes if you are making your own changes. Do not increase basal by multiple units. Slow changes are going to be your best friend. Because if you give too much basal, you're going to be going low for the next 24 hours straight. It's going to be a very rough day. Very rough night, okay? My first, maybe it was my second night on MDI, I think I went low 6 times in a single night. You do not want to deal with that. It's not fun at all. Make slow changes. I was being aggressive. I was like, I gotta get this under control. I did the wrong thing. learn from my mistakes. Make slow changes, because whatever you give yourself, you now have that circulating in your body for the next full night, full day. Don't let it ruin your day and your night. So understand, you cannot make changes to your basal. That's one of the biggest shifts with MDI and pump. There are no temp rates. There are no, I'm gonna disconnect my pump, okay? There's no safety net. You have to be ready for whatever you put into your body. Now, of course, you can snack, you can reduce or increase your mealtime insulin. There's different strategies, right? And we talk about that kind of stuff in my programs at FTF Warrior. If you're curious about that, you can jump over to ftfwarrior.com. We've got some free resources for you, some great stuff all through our website. And of course, we do have our client coaching programs. And I can't even go into how valuable those are and how much fun it is to learn about the hacks, right? The tips and tricks that make diabetes a little bit easier, a little bit less of a burden on you. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, go check out ftfwarrior.com. Make sure that you subscribe. Trust me on this one right there. There's gonna be a button that pops up. You don't want to miss this stuff. All of the updates come to those who are subscribed right there. And I can't even ruin the surprises. There's some new videos coming out that you are not going to want to miss. And that's the best way to do it. So hit that button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. And as always, keep up the fight.